The Arkansas State Red Wolves have an honest-to-goodness four-way quarterback battle going on. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We have Butch Jones, the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves, sitting down with us for today's episode. He talks about that four-way battle, a highly recruited kid, a couple of Power 4 transfers, and, of course, a Sunbelt veteran thrown into the mix. So we'll talk to him about that. What about that streaky season last year? A couple of a winning streak and a losing streak, and they end up going to a bowl game and winning it. Who has impressed this spring? We talk about his intensity on the sidelines, throws in a good golf story. Lots to talk about with the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves. He's Butch Jones, and he's Locked On Sunbelt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day, continuing our recap of spring football with the head coaches of the Sunbelt football teams. We bring in our buddy Butch Jones, head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves. Moving on from Jalen Traynor, now we have who? Who is the starting quarterback for the Arkansas State Red Wolves? And did I see him play high school football in South Alabama?
Well, first of all, great to see you. Boy, you talk about jumping right into it.
Yeah.
Deep end of the pool, so right away with the quarterback question. But, we have four individuals that are battling right now. And over the course of a period of time, I've never really felt that you can put any type of time requirement or expectation of who your starting quarterback will be. I think, it reveals itself over time. I think a lot of times the players pick who the starting quarterback is by who they rally around, who they view as their leader, the command presence, the CEO quarterback that we talk about being. But I've been really encouraged by the play of all four individuals. I think they all have a different, unique skill set. And I think they're learning. And a lot of these individuals, don't have a lot of game live experience. So game reps, there isn't very many. So we had to manufacture as many game-like situations throughout the course of the spring. But, Ethan Crawford is an individual who started games in our conference at Southern Miss. He was on our football team last year. He brings a different athleticism and kind of dynamic playmaker to us. And then Trey Owens is an individual who was at the University of Texas, and he's more of your 6'4", 6'5", can run, but can really throw the football. And then two individuals from Vanderbilt that transferred in. Drew Dickey's an individual from Austin, Texas, and he's had a very, very good spring as well. And then Jeremy St. Hilaire, who's originally from Montreal, and he was coming off an injury, and then he was full go by the end of spring. So I think those four individuals have really created quite the competition. But I've really been encouraged by what I see from them from not only a competitive character standpoint, but from a character standpoint as well. They've gelled well together, even though they're competing for the job. They're also encouraging each other, working with each other. So I think the character in that quarterback room is very, very high level in terms of that. So we'll see where the summer goes. And I think a lot of times when the coaches aren't around, that's really when you find out, you bring up Jalen Traynor, and I tell this story all the time, is Jalen Traynor was an early enrollee, but he was third on our depth chart or organizational chart when spring ball concluded and we go to training camp. And when we break training camp, he was still third on the org chart. And by the third game of the year, he's our starting quarterback and never looked back. We always talk about compete, don't compare. And I think that's a great illustration of Jalen and his competitive character.
Okay, so I'm confused a little bit. Where is Josh Flowers still with Arkansas State, or is he transferred out, or did he change positions?
Yes, Josh Flowers is not on our roster.
Okay.
And so those are the four individuals that are competing right now.
All right, very good. And so do you have to, you mentioned some different qualities from these quarterbacks. Do you have to tweak the offense to their strengths?
Well, you do. I think that's all part of it too is, each quarterback has a little different dynamic in and of itself. So, you have to have a complex system that is quarterback adaptable and is quarterback friendly. And we have that. So we're able to do some different things with the different skill sets of all 4 quarterbacks.
We're talking with Butch Jones, head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves. Last year, I always like looking back to last year to look forward to this season. Boy, you guys were streaky. You lost 4 in a row, and then you won 4 in a row. I mean, you went through a bunch of Tums and Rolaids, and then you were having post-game beverages, all right? What was it like being on that kind of streak last year?
Well, Dave, I think you're exactly right. You talk about a journey, and really that journey of what we experienced really does not happen in college football, and it definitely did not happen last year. We're the only program to start 1-4, and then end up not only going to a bowl game but winning a bowl game. We're the only team in the Sun Belt that's won back-to-back bowl games, and there's only one of 15 programs in the country that have won back-to-back bowl games. So what's that messaging? It's really hard to win. But I think when you start 1-4 and then to reel off what we reel off, and then, you're sitting at 1-4, and then you have this daunting task of a team that was picked to win the Sun Belt, Texas State, coming into your stadium. Right. And then you start off down 7-0. There's a lot. It's a character check. And I think, what this football team and this football program was able to do after starting 1-4. But, as coaches and internally, we knew what we were up against. I still don't think people understand, and I've tried to educate people, that when you're in a group of 6, and when you're especially at Arkansas State, your schedule is top heavy in terms of non-conference scheduling. We've been one of very few schools in the country that have played 2 Power 4 opponents. You look at, we had to go play Arkansas, an SEC team that at that point in time when we played them, they didn't have the injuries. They were a really good football team. And then, oh, by the way, next week you get the 12th ranked team in the country in Iowa State. And so, when you look at that and you start 1-4, and then you go on the road and play Kennesaw, that won Conference USA, you have to keep things in perspective. And I think that's the thing, is how do you manage the natural adversities of a long football season? And those natural adversities that we created for ourselves started at the beginning. And I think it's a tribute to our character, to our culture, to our players in our program, our coaches, everyone associated, that we did not blink. And we just kept playing. And then when you look at it, we're 15 yards away from winning our side of the division. The 2 losses that we had came down to the final play of the game, both on offense. And so when you really look at that football team and what we did, it was really a remarkable season, and really proud of everyone associated with our program.
All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back with more of our conversation with Arkansas State's Butch Jones on how streaky they were. A 4-game losing streak, which was directly followed by a 4-game winning streak. We'll do that right after I tell you about Rocket Money. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where'd all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It tracks your subscriptions in one spot, can help cancel the ones you don't need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going. And you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clearer picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And don't forget, you can join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Sunbelt ad-free, plus members-only Discord access. Join us at lockedonsunbelt.supercast.com. You know it. Say it with me. lockedonsunbelt.supercast.com. Repeat after me. lockedonsunbelt.supercast.com for the Everydayer Club. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's continue our conversation with the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves, Butch Jones, and how streaky they were last year. A 4-game losing streak followed by a 4-game winning streak. Talking to Butch Jones, the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves. So you had one of those ball games, those insane ball games. Just to remind people, that Texas State ball game was 10-10 going into the fourth quarter. 10-10 ball game. Scoreless.
Catch your breath.
You guys won it 31-30 due to a missed extra point.
Well, never been a part of a game like that in terms of we had to call the give up play, which you hate doing as a coach. And first time we've ever had to do that where we let them score.
Right.
And then, be able to get the ball and go the length of the field.
How about that?
So not only, did they miss the extra point, but we had to drive the ball, I believe it was 85, 90 yards to go win the football game. So,
right.
We earned that victory, but have never had to have that play on defense where we had to let them score.
So when does that conversation come up? Like you said, that's the first time you've ever done that. That's interesting that you said that because you got to make that decision. Did you call timeout? Was someone having that conversation 3 minutes beforehand? Because obviously you got 40 seconds to make that decision.
Right. Well, it's managing the clock and managing the game. And we did not call timeout to make that decision. We just knew we were at, from a time standpoint, you're trying to consume as much of your timeouts, keep as many timeouts in your back pocket as you can possibly have.
Right.
But we knew that the time was running down. It was getting under a minute. So in order to have an opportunity, we were thinking to tie the game or possibly go for 2 to win the game if we score. And then I think when they missed that extra point, that our players had been there, they'd done that. And it was like, okay, here we go. And there was no flinch. So you look at a team that goes down, they're losing. There's less than a minute to go in the game. You're sitting at 1-4 right now.
Right.
They're 1-5 in your face. And then we go down and we have a great program win against a real quality opponent. And I think that just the belief system, the belief in what we're doing just kind of ignited us.
So we've all seen you on the sidelines all these years. You can be intense. You may be able to match your face, the color of the uniforms every once in a while.
Kind of like your shirt that you got on.
There you go. Exactly like that. So how do you convey the calmness and the steady hand after tough losses to be able to get those wins and know that while the players are coming up short and they lost, like you said, to 3 good football teams, and to have that belief that you guys can turn it around, that you still believe in them, I guess is what I'm asking about, because obviously they don't feel good about themselves, whether they won against or lost against a good football team or not, but you still believed in them. And that's how you guys rattled off those 4 straight wins after that. Absolutely.
I think, what people see sometimes on the sideline with the passion and the energy and, there's a whole lot of different things that go on behind the scenes in the locker room, the practice in our building. And I believe in our players and I believe in our system and I believe in our culture. And what you see is somebody who, has a will to win and has a passion. And a lot of times your teams take on the personality of their head football coach. And so we always talk about fire, passion, and energy. And I think that really guided us. But, we talk about start fast, finish strong. It's not just coach speak. It's something that we talk about. It's something that we talk about every day in the way we start practice, the way we end practice. And, I think it comes with experience, maybe, and a little bit of wisdom, but there's a total belief in our players. I love our players. That's why we coach. That's why we do what we do. But we had practiced those situations for an entire year. And there was no flinch. There was no blink. And I think that's the thing is we had some older veteran players that really held things together, and their belief in one another, their belief in the program, it never wavered. And I think that's really rare in today's world. It's instant gratification. Right. And, it's easy to move on, to quit mentally. And that team didn't quit. And I think, this football team, I told our players, this will serve them for many years down the road in their life, because they never quit. And, you're really defined on how you handle adversity. And that football team will define on how they handle adversity. And I think in today's age of college football and the transfer portal and everything going on, the connection that you saw by this football team, the leadership was really remarkable.
I probably should mention that most of the intensity when you're face turned reds tend to be directed towards the officials rather than your own team. Just need to probably point that out. I'm sure people realize that as well, but just wanted to make sure that's the case.
Well, I have a lot of good friends that are officials, and John McDade is a great friend of mine who runs the SEC, and we've been through a lot of wars together starting in our Big East days when I was at Cincinnati. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for them, and sometimes it's just keeping them on their toes.
Well, that's one way of putting it. Yes, certainly. Could be trying to get the next call, right? That's what you guys, you head coaches are always thinking about the next play. Talking to Butch Jones, the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves. Just quickly, what do you think about La Tech joining that? That's a great opportunity for rivalry with you guys in Jonesboro.
Well, I think, first of all, when you look at the proximity and what it brings to the Sun Belt Conference, also, even though they haven't been in our league for a while, I think there's a familiarity. And it's all about, we talk about regional, advancement of the Sun Belt and the regional rivalries that it brings about. So I think it's a natural fit. Obviously, Sonny's done a great job there. You look at the rebuilding of their program. They bring some different challenges from schematical standpoint of what they bring to the conference. And they have a program that has great tradition and history as well. So we think it's a natural fit. Obviously, we have to go to Ruston. So that's going to be a big challenge in and of itself. But, when we talk about creating the competitive balance that we have within the Sun Belt Conference, I think they will be a great addition to what we're doing.
How do you get ready for somebody like that? Is there you take time to do some now, a little scouting beforehand? Obviously, you got a whole season before you play them. I think they're the second to last ball game of the year. So you'll have some tape on it then. But how do you prepare for a team that you just haven't played and they're in a conference game? Whereas, when you play the Cajuns, you kind of know what you're getting.
Well, that's a great question. And we do some different things throughout the course of spring football into the months of the summer and then into training camp, of really trying to expose our players to every different things that they're going to see, from schematics to the tempo to the different things that it brings about. So we'll be ready to go, but I think it's a journey in and of itself.
Talking to Butch Jones, the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves, who impressed you this spring?
Well, I tell you what, I was impressed by our character. And, talking with a lot of head coaches, it was a different spring in that you had your full team intact, basically. Right. You didn't have to worry about the transfer portal. And I think what it helped is it really helped our players, because some of them weren't 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Right. It eliminated the clutter and the distraction of them thinking that they had to make another decision in the month of May of what they wanted to do in terms of the portal. So I think they were able to really, really build connection with their teammates, focus on academics, which is the most important thing. But, we're in this portal era. I think we defined by it. We only had 8 players on our defense that spent a year ago with us in spring ball and only 15 on offense. So it's been a growing process. It's been a journey. We have a long, long way to go. So we're in the infant stages of building our identity. And you really start to build your identity in the winter months of your strength and conditioning, and then into spring football. And then a lot will happen when our players get back for the summer months of June and July. Right. And then the next phase, obviously, is training camp. But what I've learned, if you're working to build your identity and your toughness when August training camp starts, you're in for a long season. So spring football, the summer months of June and July are critical and vital in building your overall football identity of what you're going to be. But I've liked our work ethic. We've had to build a capacity for work. Still not there yet in our style of play in terms of the effort that's required on every single play. But what I liked is I thought our players' determination was there every day. I thought their consistency in the way they showed up were there every day as well. And then, you do have to rely on some individuals like an A.J. McGee, who has played a lot of football in this conference going in his second year, to have him back. And then I thought we were able to bring in some quality transfers. And it's amazing. Older players on our team that we feel were here most of them were going into their first spring and they had only been here for a year.
No.
But us as coaches kind of viewed them as younger players. But when you step back and you look at it, you're like, wow, they're actually going through their first spring. Ryan Reese is an individual who comes to my mind at the defensive tackle position. Joe Drew is one of our leaders on defense, and he was going through his first spring. Where offensively, we had some guys in the offensive front and the offensive line that had, been through a number of springs for us and have been there. So that's helped. I think Chauncey Cobb at the receiver position, really stepping up in a leadership role. Tyler Little at the tight end position, and then, Brandon Barnes as well from a defensive standpoint at the safety position. So all of our older players are high character, high competitive character individuals. So I think that really aided in the building of this football team.
Let's take one final timeout. 3, 2, 1. Let's take one final timeout. We'll come back and wrap up our conversation with the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves, Butch Jones. Talks about actually getting a chance to coach the team during spring ball. But first, let me thank everybody. Quickly approaching 2,970 subscribers. We seem to get 1 or 2 per day. It's a big help. Social media numbers are up. And also, the time spent watching is up. It had been about 6.5 minutes over the last few episodes. It's been amazing. It's been 10.5, 11 minutes. That is a huge, huge help. So thank you oh so much. If you're new here, please subscribe. We'd love to have you. Don't forget about those audio podcasts as well. Apple and Spotify. You can listen to it when you're working out, when you're driving. Just doesn't have to be when you're sitting at the computer or the television. All right. I do appreciate it. Let's wrap things up with Butch Jones. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. One more segment with the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves, Butch Jones, talks about actually getting a chance to coach Arkansas State football during the spring, how he has seen the athletic program up in Jonesboro flourish since his arrival, and we've actually finished it up with a couple of good golf stories. He is the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves. He's Butch Jones, and he's Locked On Sunbelt. So one of the things I always hear from coaches, especially head coaches, is the one thing you guys don't get to do a lot because you got all kinds of responsibilities is actually the coaching part. With so much turnover, and I know you guys are trying to accomplish so much in just 15 practices, do you guys get a chance to coach a little bit during spring ball?
Well, I think having a reprieve from the transfer portal in May, I know me personally, I was able to dive more into this football team and the psychological disposition that comes with it in the building of the connection. And this is probably the most rewarding spring I've had in a long time because I was really able to get into our players' mindset, try to work on their total growth and development. But as a head coach, I think in today's world, there are no off days. Everyone says, oh, what are you doing in May? Well, you're in the middle of spring recruiting. You're trying to raise money for rev share and NIL and, donor cultivation and all those things. And then June is a whirlwind with, your teams back on campus, the continued growth and development of them, the summer camps that are along with it. So, I think it's always been a year-round profession, but I think more so than ever. But I do think the elimination of the transfer portal has really helped us kind of keep the main thing in the spring months, and that's the development of our current players and our team.
Yeah, you're the veteran coach there now, Butch. You got a new
not
basketball coach. No. Just at Arkansas State, right? Basketball coach was in his first year. Mike Silva's in his second year. When you see the success of the program, and obviously football is the engine that drives the car, sports-wise, you guys have progressed. When you see other programs do that at your own school, like what Mike Silva, Arkansas State's got a top 50 RPI. That's been unheard of, right? And they're competing for a good spot in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. What's it like when you see the success of all the sports having at Arkansas State?
Well, Dave, I appreciate you bringing that up because I think more people have to understand we win at Arkansas State. And we have an extremely connected group of coaches and administration. We all support each other and we all learn from each other. And I think, it starts in the fall when you have success in football. I think it builds momentum, and our student athletes are really close. And then you bookend that with the way our baseball team is doing under Coach Silva, and you look at our track and field program. Our men's golf team just won the Sun Belt Championship.
Right.
I was at an event yesterday getting ready to wish them well going into the NCAAs. So there's so much that goes on. We have a great opportunity to win the Bubas Cup, which is an overall sports trophy for the Sun Belt. We've never been as high as we've been, and I think we have a great opportunity to win it. But our greatest resource here at Arkansas State is the people. We have tremendous people. We have great leadership in Chris Pesman, Chancellor Todd Shields, all these individuals. We all work well together. And then all of our coaches really, really support each other. We know kind of the trials and tribulations and challenges that are facing all of us in our respective sports, but extremely close. And I think that shows in our student athletes. And obviously it shows with our success on the courts and in the field of play.
You ever go hit some golf balls with the golf team, get some tips from those guys heading into the tournament?
Well, I'm waiting for Coach Hagan to give me some lessons. I'm awful at golf, and I think it's a byproduct of not playing much. I do have to tell you a quick funny story. So
Sure.
A few years ago, my good friend Matt Wilson, he's now leads the Indiana football program in recruiting, but we were out and it was a May and all the coaches are on the road. So I let them leave early and they go out to one of our local golf courses. So I decide I'm going to show up and play and ride the court. I have blue jeans on and I walk out on the course and right away they all get nervous. So his first drive, he slices it into the woods.
Oh.
Long story short, I parred the first 3 holes. After the 3rd hole I parred, I throw the golf club up in the air and I said, I don't know why you guys think this game is so hard. I'm going back to the office to work.
Oh.
And I knew you better quit while you're ahead. I would never have a golf match like that ever again. So I let them play, and I never let those guys live that down.
Oh, because I thought you were going to test out the golfing gods and say you didn't par another hole the whole day. That's what I thought that story was going to.
Dave, I'm smart enough that the world of golf, it'll eventually, it don't get you till it gets you, and it was going to get me. So I had to quit while I was ahead. I had bragging rights now forever and walked off the course, and they were just dumbfounded. So I always get a chance to remind them about those great 3 rounds of golf, or 3 holes of golf, rather.
See, that's why you've been such a successful head football coach, and I'm just a podcaster. I'd be counting the amount of shots I have to break 90, and I would shoot 110.
Well, you just learn when it goes well and you know you're not very good, it's time to go.
There you go. All right, let's wrap things up with head coach Butch Jones from the Arkansas State Red Wolves, Locked On Sunbelt. Your teams every day. How do you get this team to compete for that Sun Belt title? I mean, Troy kind of came out of nowhere last year. Southern Miss fell a little bit. There's all these coaches turnovers. Texas State isn't in. Texas State is out. La Tech is in. I think they're the only conference in America that has 2 divisions, which I happen to like. I get to keep count of the coaches and the quarterbacks. So I like the East and the West. How do you get this team to finish towards the top, if not at the top of the Sun Belt Western Division?
Well, that's a great question. I think, first of all, we have an infrastructure and we have a culture and a very high standard. It's like I told our team midway through spring football, are you interested in winning or are you obsessed with winning? And there's a difference in your commitment level. And so I think for us, it's just that consistency approach day in and day out, trust in the process. We've won everywhere we've been. We're winning here. We talked about the back-to-back bowl wins, and no other program in the Sun Belt can say that now. We know how hard it is to win, and winning is fragile. If you look at most of the games in the Sun Belt, like for us, most of it came down to the final play of the game or the final drive of the game.
That's right.
So it's teaching them what winning football looks like and just staying the course and never being too high or too low. It's that mental disposition that we talk about. And I think that's the key in the art of, or the age of rev share and the age of transfer portal, is you can never lose sight that your biggest resource are your players and their mindset. And then we have a very high standard, and we hold our players and everyone in our organization accountable to that, starting with myself. So I think for us, it's just making the most of every day, stacking days back to back, and then teaching them what winning football looks like, and having a great plan every day. And, I'm really excited. We have a new strength and conditioning coach. You talk about, the coaches here at Arkansas State and all being new. Well, I've never been a part of a year like this. We have a new chief of staff. We have 3 new individuals, new in recruiting department, new offensive coordinator, new running back coach, new edges coach. But it's actually been invigorating. And then obviously a new strength and conditioning coach with Ben Armour, who came to us from Duke, and he's been remarkable. And so I'm excited to see the next journey and evolution of our football team is what he can do with them in the months of June and July.
He's the head coach of the Arkansas State Red Wolves. He is Butch Jones, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. Always appreciate your time, Coach. Enjoy a little bit of downtime with the portal not there, and then hopefully we'll see you at Sunbelt Media Days, and then practice is going to start right after that. I appreciate your time, Coach. Thank you so much.
At Media Days, Dave, I want to know how your golf game has gone through June, July, and then into August. So I look forward to talking to you about that.
Well, speaking of quitting ahead, I'll tell you a quick story. Used to work at a golf school, and some guy named Bill Murray came down.
You should be really good then.
Well, it should be. Well, they changed my slice into a hook, all right? Well, I was pretty good for a while when I was doing it down then. But Bill Murray came to practice and get some lessons before he went out to Pebble Beach. And so I was just standing there watching. And so, he turns to me and says, "You try it." So he's giving me a blade, right? I don't play with blades. These are really good golf clubs. The instructor gave me a bunch of confidence, moving his equipment out of the way so I don't hit it. I smoked a 5-iron, 200, 220 down the middle. He's like, "Do that again." I said, No. That's not happening. I pulled a Butch Jones. I told him I'm going to quit while I'm ahead.
So, John, I don't know if you've read any John Gordon books.
I have not.
But John Gordon is a real close friend of mine, and it's called The One Great Golf Shot Theory. And it's all about that mental disposition you and I spoke about earlier in the podcast. And so, when you think about when people take on golf, they're not good at it. So when you're not good at something, you don't want to do something. Well, what makes you keep going? Well, just like you spoke about, when you go to bed at night, you don't think about all the bad rounds of golf or bad holes that you had. You think about that one great shot, how the club felt, the sound of it when it hit the ball, and that's what drives you to go back. So that's a great illustration of the one great golf shot theory.
The one great golf shot. I'm with that all the time. I'm usually worried about the 3 bad golf shots that cost me 10 strokes. That's the other problem.
And then you lose a bunch of sleeve of golf balls along the way, so it becomes extremely expensive. A good round of golf for me, Coach, back in the day when I did play, break 100, play with the same golf ball all round. That's a successful golf round. Life's good. I appreciate it, Coach. Thank you so much. You're the best. Thank you.